Grace and Daniel's wedding was a dream come true. Held in their church, surrounded by family and friends, the ceremony was a celebration of their faith and love. Grace believed she was stepping into her God-ordained future, a marriage founded on prayer and transformation. For the first few months, everything seemed perfect. They rented a small house in the suburbs when Grace filled it with warmth and love. Daniel, now working a less demanding job, started spending more time at home. They prayed together, attended church regularly, and even hosted Bible studies. But cracks began to show. Grace thought it was work-related, but soon she noticed other signs: missed church services, a growing disinterest in Bible study, and a sharp tone in his words. One evening, as they sat for dinner, Grace asked, "Daniel, you haven't been to church in 2 weeks. Is everything okay?" He shrugged, cutting into his food. "I've been busy, Grace. And honestly, I don't feel like going sometimes." Grace felt a pang in her chest. "But we promised to put God first in our marriage." "I know," he said, not meeting her eyes. "But does it have to be all the time? I need a break." Grace stayed silent, praying in her heart. She told herself it was just a phase. Daniel's behavior worsened. He started spending nights out, claiming he was meeting old friends. His once gentle demeanor turned harsh, and arguments became frequent. One night, Grace confronted him after he stumbled home reeking of alcohol. "Daniel, what's happening to you?" she asked, her voice trembling. He scoffed, throwing his jacket onto the couch. "What's happening to me? Maybe I'm tired of pretending to be someone I'm not." "Pretending? This isn't me, Grace," he yelled. "I tried, okay? I tried to be the perfect church guy for you. But it's not who I am." Grace felt like the ground beneath her had crumbled. "You said you wanted to follow God." "You said." "I said what you wanted to hear," he interrupted. "I thought it would make you happy." Tears streamed down Grace's face as Daniel stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door behind him. The once loving husband Grace had prayed for seemed to have disappeared. She sought counsel from her pastor and close friends, who advised her to remain patient and continue praying for Daniel. "Marriage isn't always easy," her pastor said. "It's a covenant, not a contract. Keep standing in faith for him." But as weeks turned into months, Grace felt herself growing weary. Daniel stopped attending church altogether, often mocking her faith. One evening, as she knelt in prayer, Daniel walked into the living room. "Still praying for me, huh?" he sneered. "Yes," she said softly. "Because I believe God can change your heart." "Well, don't waste your time," he said, pouring himself a glass of whiskey. "I'm fine the way I am." The tension between them reached its peak when Grace discovered something that shattered her heart: a series of text messages on Daniel's phone from another woman. Confronting him, she held up the phone, her hands trembling. "Who is she, Daniel?" He looked at her coldly. "What difference does it make?" Grace's voice cracked. "We made vows before God. How could you do this?" "Maybe those vows were a mistake," he said bluntly. "I never wanted this life, Grace." "You did." Grace felt like her world had ended. That night, she cried out to God, asking why he had allowed this to happen. Had she misheard his voice? Had she been wrong about Daniel's transformation? Despite the betrayal, Grace chose to stay in the marriage, believing in the power of God to restore what was broken. She continued to pray for Daniel, even when it felt hopeless. One day, Daniel came home visibly shaken. He had been in a minor car accident, nothing serious, but enough to jolt him. "Grace," he said quietly, sitting on the couch. "I thought I was going to die today." Grace sat beside him, her heart aching for the man she once knew. God spared you, Daniel. He's giving you another chance. For a moment, Daniel looked like he was about to break. But then he shook his head. I don't deserve another chance. No one does, Grace said, taking his hand. That's why it's called grace. Just as it seemed like Daniel was turning a corner, tragedy struck. One night, while driving home late from work, he got into a serious accident. Grace rushed to the hospital, her heart pounding as she prayed for his survival. When she saw him lying unconscious in the ICU, she knelt by his bedside, holding his hand. God, please don't take him. Not yet. He's your son, Lord. Bring him back to you. After days in a coma, Daniel woke up. The experience left him shaken and deeply reflective. For the first time in years, he opened up to Grace about his fears and failures. I've wasted so much time, he said, tears streaming down his face. But I want to change, Grace. I want to be the man God called me to be. From that moment, Daniel's transformation was genuine. He recommitted his life to Christ, sought forgiveness from Grace, then began rebuilding their marriage. Their journey was far from perfect, but it was a testament to the power of grace, forgiveness, and God's redemptive love. Through the trials, Grace learned that marriage wasn't just about love, it was about faith, perseverance, and trusting God's plan, even when it seemed impossible. And as for Daniel, he became the man Grace had always prayed for, not because of her efforts, but because of God's unrelenting pursuit of his children. If you were Grace, would you still hold on to your husband? And what did you learn from the story? Please like, share, and subscribe.